Hello, I am so happy that you're here to join us. Yeah, I know I'm here, but don't get too used to my face at the moment. We're going to be passing on to our fantastic speakers that spoke at PPC Live number 12, and that's like Charley Brennand, Hollie Thubron, and as well as Alex Palgrave Davies. Oh, Alex, I hope I said that correctly. Three fantastic speakers. Yeah, you'll be seeing them. They'll be getting into what it's going to talking about data, PMax, imposter syndrome, fantastic topics that we need at this time. But first of all, a big thanks to ClickTech and Shopping IQ, who are doing an amazing stuff in terms of the digital marketing space. Shopping IQ in the terms of the shopping space, Google Shopping, great targeting options. If you want to do shopping, of course, when it comes to Google, they're always going to suggest things to, make you spend more. So the likes of Shopping IQ is needed to ensure that you're doing those kind of things better. E-commerce is huge. You could just throw your money into a big well and not know what's happening. And, Google's always coming out with tools for e-com, but how much are they doing it to not just spend your money? But anyway, this is not a dissing Google session, but also thanks a lot to ClickTech, who are very dedicated to ensuring businesses are doing paid media and digital marketing online properly, that they're winning online, and especially their latest tool, Click Ads, that will help you with programmatic. So yeah, look out for that. That tool, Click Ads, to do programmatic. Yeah, I'm very grateful that you're here. I started PPC Live a couple of years ago. I didn't even realize that, how big it could get, how much loved it could be. So I'm very happy that you're here. And I'm now going to pass it on to Jyll, who's then going to go on to the rest of the sessions, introduce herself and give us the rest of the sessions. And we'll be back after that to answer any of your questions. Thank you. Take it away, Jyll.
Much, Anu. I'm Jyll Saskin Gales. I use the pronouns she and her, and I'm a Google Ads coach, ex-Googler, and the founder of Inside Google Ads. I met Anu a couple years ago on Twitter, the good old days of Twitter, and I feel so fortunate that I've gotten to know her personally and professionally, and I'm truly honored that she was game with my idea to bring PPC Live online. Anu founded this event 2 years ago. She has put on a dozen live events in the UK. Anyone who's ever organized any kind of event before knows how difficult that is. So to put together not just an event, but a successful event that's running for more than 2 years, touching hundreds of people, it's so impressive. And I'm thrilled that now everyone on the interwebs will be able to experience the brilliance of Anu's event and the brilliance of our PPC Live speakers. We're going to flip now into the recordings of your three speakers. First, we're going to hear from Charley Brennand. Charley is the founder of the PPC Academy, and she's a PPC manager. She's an experienced paid media and PPC professional who's worked with pretty much every major ad platform you can think of. She's Google certified in search, shopping, display, and mobile, as well as being certified in Google Analytics, Search Ads 360, and Microsoft Ads. She's going to talk about how to beat imposter syndrome in the many situations we face in our day-to-day roles within PPC, from exec to director. Let's hear now from Charley.
I was kind of hoping the microphone was going to die before, because the thought of holding two things in my hands, and you see my hand shakes a lot when I talk. I'm not like mega nervous. I'm nervous, but I'm not mega nervous, but my hand's just like so if you see it, mind your damn business. Evening, everyone. I'm bringing the energy. If you've not already figured it out, I am hailing from Manchester. I do not sound like one of yous. So, in fact, we say words like yous as well. There you go, one for you to take home. Okay. So a lot of smiley faces in the audience, that's nice. So before we begin, what I would like to do is something that everybody in PPC absolutely loves. Audience participation! So, by a quick show of hands, please put your hand up in the air, nice and high so we can see it, if you have ever experienced imposter syndrome in the workplace. I think that's all. Rob? Yeah, show your hand up? Yeah. Excellent. Well, not excellent, obviously, it's a bit shit, but yeah. And if you can also, by a show of hands, just put your hands up if, when you have experienced imposter syndrome, it stopped you from taking action of some sort. So pop your hands up in the air, hold them high, people look around. Right? There's quite a few of you. I actually think the number's higher, but I'm going to just go with it. Can anybody hazard a guess as to what this number might be?
75.
Excellent, but no, it's not 75. Does that better question? Great answer, rubbish question. Better question, can anybody tell me what they think this number might represent?
Women.
Not quite, it's actually a little bit higher. So this number is the percentage of the workforce as of 2024 that has experienced imposter syndrome in the workplace. You are not alone. When I was writing this talk, I went straight into saying exactly what imposter syndrome was, why it's so bad, and proceeded to reel off a list of maybe 5, 6 things of the things you can do to overcome it. I ran through a couple of practice talks with my coach, and I ended up in tears. Lots of them. See, what I didn't realise until writing this talk is just how badly I still suffer with it. And honestly, it's debilitating. It can be debilitating. Actually, Anu doesn't know this, but I almost backed out tonight. I'm glad I didn't, but I did almost. And honestly, you know, that's the same for so many people in the workplace, finding themselves in a situation that they don't feel equipped for, they're telling themselves that they are not good enough for. So I can't honestly, in good faith, stand here and talk to you about how to overcome it. What there is in PPC, paid media, is a shit ton of resources online about how to be better at our jobs. Technical resources in their hordes, you know, top 10 tips, hacks, tricks, buy this course, buy this ebook, spend $10 and never have to learn again. But what there isn't is any resources really in abundance about what to do in those moments when we feel fearful, when we feel like we're not good enough. And honestly, that is scary, given the stat that I've just shared. So, where do we go from here? Well, I'm just going to pick the mood up a little bit now, everyone. I'm Charlie. I'm a PPC consultant and founder of the PPC Academy community in Manchester. You know, totally earth northerner. I like to say so myself. And to be honest, I've got a backstory that's that colourful, it makes the rainbow look a bit grey. If you want to know more on that later, ask me. I actually thought it was really hilarious. I don't work in paid social, I actually stick to the OG PPC, but I thought it'd be really funny if I just mocked up a paid social ad and put a little code about myself on there. But we're going to skip over that before you can read it. So let's dive right in. So as an example, all of the changes to do with attribution in the last 12 months or so, does anybody really have all of the answers? No, they don't. Yes, you know it, you know it. And do you know what? If they say they do, they're full of shit, they're liars, and it's an immediate red flag from me. We have an industry that's changing faster than ever before, but what we also have is a community of PPC practitioners that worry if they admit to not being able to keep up, people may think they're not cut out for this work. They're shit at their jobs. They don't belong in this community. Or my favourite, they should hide and hang their heads in shirt room. But I'll be honest, let's go back to the beginning. What is imposter syndrome? Imposter syndrome is described as a feeling of not feeling good enough, doubting your abilities, when actually your performance may be adequate and likely above average. The thing that I found really interesting about imposter syndrome is the likelihood of it impacting you compounds if you identify with any of the things on the left-hand side. So I'm guessing there's probably a few elder children, older children, minorities in the audience, and honestly, when it starts to add up, it compounds even more. You're more likely to experience imposter syndrome during periods of change or transition when we're just knocked out of our comfort zones. And they can look like having to compete for a seat at the table. I know certainly that's when it tends to hit in for me. Having big shoes to suddenly fill, so that might be a promotion, it might be you've gone for a new job, it might be somebody just asked to help on something and then all of a sudden you don't have the answers. Or having to be out on your own. Perfect example, freelancers. Now, the reason why imposter syndrome is so toxic is because if you experience imposter syndrome, you are much more likely to experience things like burnout, or negative performance at work, or overall see a negative impact on your career success trajectory. Sounds a bit shit, doesn't it? So what I'm going to do is, rather than bore you to death with all of these tips and tricks, I'm going to share experiences that personally, for me, are obviously very close to my heart, and also, you know, to help people relate, connect, inspire you to think that actually, do you know what? You can be successful and still think you're really shit at your job most of the time. So I'll take it back. The first part of my early career, I was in sales for about a decade before I ended up in digital marketing recruitment. Don't look like the recruitment type, I hear you say, because I don't look like a wanker. But no, I actually lots of fun for recruiters. I am very much passionate about keeping that relationship really positive. The strangest thing started to happen. I was listening to clients and candidates, and I was like, oh my God, I think I can do your job. All you do is dick around in Excel and look at pictures and talk. And ultimately, through the personal connections and network that I built in recruitment and the candidate network that I had, I managed to get a gig in marketing. But 3 months into my first PPC role, the CTO took me into the kitchen. I can remember it as clear as day. It had a nice wooden floor that creaked almost every step that he took. And he sat me down and he uttered some words to me that honestly haunted me for the next 5 years. And he said, Charlie, you're not good enough. You're sacked. And he whispered that last bit. It almost felt like he was shouting in my face. But 3 months into my first PPC job, and he told me he didn't think that I would be good enough ever. If that wasn't something to boot off imposter syndrome for the rest of my career, I don't know what was. You see, at that moment in time, imposter syndrome kicked in hard. It kicked in so hard. And I went and cried in my car, drove home to see my mum, and to be honest, when I was writing this talk, this quote actually kept coming up for different reasons. And it's obviously one that most people have heard of, Henry Ford. Whether you think you can or you can't, you're probably right. But what I do think is missing from this quote is actually sometimes what we need in those moments when we feel like we're not good enough is actually our support network of 1 to 3 people around us that remind us who the fuck we are. For me, that moment, it was my mum. I am not ashamed to say. She said, Charlie, I'm not going to do the accent because it's really embarrassing. You can imagine, Charlie, you're a problem solver. But problem solvers don't exist without problems. Claire, you're so wise. You're so wise. I would never tell her that to her face. So tip 1, expect problems. We are in the industry of problem solving. It's why we're so good at our jobs. We constantly get booted out of our comfort zones and deal with the unexpected. It's why we are so good, and it's why we're here in performance media. With every problem that we deal with, also expect that there's going to be very specific nuances that you're never going to have experienced before. So, hey, do you know what, if you deal with a problem, you're like, fuck, I don't know what I'm doing. That's normal. That's normal. It means you're probably in the right job. So, the second time where imposter syndrome really, really hit me hard was when I returned to work after having my little boy, Roman. I set up a freelancing business because that flexibility just worked around my newly formed family. But I just couldn't escape this nagging feeling that everyone was going to be like, she can't do it anymore. She can't do it anymore. She's had 11 months out. She can't do it anymore. No? Too much change. And honestly, the constant feeling going around in my head of, they're going to find out I'm a fraud. And what's worse, they're going to tell everyone. And once again, my career faced a career-ending moment in my head, anyway. Now, I did explain to my partner that I was feeling these feelings, and he was like, Charlie, why do people like working with you? I'm so glad you asked, Michael. Let me tell you. But in all seriousness, that was 2022 when I set up my business. And as you all know, we are flying through 2024 at the speed of light. Terrifying. And I just celebrated 2 years running my business. So what did I do to overcome or deal with that crippling doubt that really actually almost stopped me from setting up my business in the first place? I got to know myself, as cringy as it sounds. No matter what job I've ever done, whether it's been stuffed in envelopes, door knocking or PPC, I know I have immense pride in my work. And honestly, I care deeply about doing a very good job. Going above and beyond is in my DNA, like that's just who I am. So actually sometimes we do actually just have to stop and think about what makes us good at our jobs. What is on our brilliant list? So tip number 2, remember, why do people generally like working with you? Do you go above and beyond? Do you care about the work that you do? Have you got a good work ethic? Do you support your peers? Do you care about the clients that you work with? Are you generally a nice person? Do you always aim to do your best and improve? And honestly, just thinking about some of the things that make you brilliant is possibly one of the best things that you can do to counteract imposter syndrome. A good friend of mine actually told me that anxiety and gratitude, they can never coexist because it's the same part of the brain that actually produces both of those emotions. So when you're feeling grateful and you're feeling amazing about yourself and thinking about all the things that make you brilliant, it's actually impossible to be anxious at the same time. Although I did argue that it probably was possible. Remember why people like working with you. What is on your brilliant list? Imposter syndrome, strike 3. This is a very real and current experience for me, and I'll be honest, I debated whether or not sharing this was the right thing to do. But I'm just going to go with it. Imposter syndrome, strike 3. Performance, Manchester. Ben knows. Performance Manchester, it is a paid media and performance marketing conference that is coming to Manchester next year in May/June. Not quite nailed it down yet. No tickets are not available yet. But listen, it is something that I feel has been completely abandoned in the market, and it's something that I feel so passionate about, and I thought it was a good idea. But the problem is every twist and turn, I have been met with imposter syndrome thoughts slap bang in the face. What if no one comes? What if everybody hates it? What if nobody sponsors? What if people actually think it's a really shit idea? I'm hoping that no one in the audience is thinking that no, so all smile and wave. But I'll be honest, guys, I am hoping that by now, the thread of this talk, you know what happens next. She went ahead and did it anyway. So planning is well underway, and I'll be honest, one of the big reasons that it is because I discovered something called the liking gap. Has anyone ever heard of the liking gap before? No? Brilliant. Every day's a school day, guys. The liking gap is the name of the study of how often we as humans underestimate how much people like us. It is about 30% of the time we assume people don't like us. So that's like looking around now and assuming that every third person sitting across from you hates you. For no reason at all. No context. We just assume people don't like us. So sad. So tip 3. Assume people like you more. We're flipping that on its head. We are assuming that people like us more often. And another fancy bit of neuroscience. Has anybody heard of the helper's high? Anybody? I thought your hand was going up then. I was like, yes, my friend. Helper's high. Helper's high is the name given to how we are neurologically programmed as humans to want to help other people. It's literally insane to think that we are humans, are biologically and neurologically programmed to want to help others, yet we assume most people don't like us. Wild. Now, imagine if we assume more people like us, and we are mindful of the fact that we are neurologically programmed to want to help other people. Put those two things together, mate, and you have some magic! You have utter magic. And ultimately, we're ending up in this optimistic world where everybody's like thinking things are going to work out. We're just assuming things are going to work out for the better rather than just being terrified that they're not. And finally, I won't drone on much longer. I actually think I've dragged this out pretty well, haven't I? Yes. Is this wrap up yet? Okay, well. We're actually talking about the fact that the talk wasn't long enough. Sorry, I just tried to slow it down. So finally, this is honestly something that's stuck with me since the moment that I heard it about 3 years ago. And it's about fear. Fear is a key pillar to imposter syndrome. Does anybody know what fear is or how they would describe it? Anybody hazard a guess? I know you're all keen for some audience participation to see the keenness, that word, at the beginning. No one wanted to have a go at describing fear.
Being afraid of something.
Being afraid is an excellent description of it, yeah. I'm going to one-up you on that one. Fear is none other than false evidence appearing real. Ooh, I got a new from you. Oh, yes, thank you. That's made my night. False evidence appearing real. Fear is the lies we tell ourselves in the absence of evidence. We do it all the time. We don't know. We get scared. We go, oh my God, this is going to happen. This is going to happen. Oh my God, this is going to happen. It's not real. It's not real. False evidence appearing real. So I put it to you, lovely audience, for tonight. The next time you feel like a fraud, or you feel like you're not good enough, or you feel like you're stepping into something that you just do not feel prepared for, or you feel absolutely paralysed by the feeling of imposter syndrome, ask yourself, is this false evidence actually stopping you from making impact? If it is, check your support network. Have you got one? Do you know what's on your brilliant list? I swear to God, if everyone leaves here tonight and doesn't think about this brilliant list afterwards, I'm gonna cry again. Are we assuming the worst? Can we have a go at maybe assuming people just like us because they don't know any different? And also, is the scenario completely driven by fear? Don't be scared is obviously such an easy thing to say when you're in the moment. I was shitting my pants coming up here tonight. But you know, bravery is not the absence of fear. It's carrying on in spite of it, right? So, guys, thank you very much. And yeah, don't overcome imposter syndrome, guys. Just crack the F on with it and take those tips and make your brilliant list.
Thank you, Charley, for starting us off with some great perspective and great energy. Next, we're going to hear from Hollie Thubron. She is a performance consultant at House of Performance, experienced in paid media strategy and data-driven optimization. She works to help her clients achieve their goals through PPC and paid social campaigns. Today, she's here to talk to us about, well, everyone's favorite topic, Performance Max. Because sometimes PMax can feel like the black box of doom. She's going to share her tips about audience signals, structure, e-com versus lead gen, assets, a whole bunch of things you can use to optimize and improve your Performance Max campaigns. Let's hear now from Hollie.
Anu, and I just want to make it clear he didn't come here to support me, he came to watch me. I'm also very impressed that you said my last name right. It's always a guess if people usually put the R in a different place, so it's a good start. And thank you for your talk as well. It's definitely imposter syndrome, definitely something I've been experiencing preparing for this. So as Anu said, I'm going to be talking about Performance Max. I know we've already done a lot of hand raising, but I'm just going to ask for some more. I just want to get a vibe of where everyone is with Performance Max. So, who here knows what it is? Okay, awesome. I think my dad was on a different hand. And who here has used it for e-com? What about lead gen? Okay, still a few. And who here doesn't like it? Awesome, okay, that's nice. I like some raised hands on hating it, so I'm hoping to convert some people. Sticking on the negative for a minute, I went down a bit of a Reddit rabbit hole and found some forums on PPC and PMax, and I found some of my favourite ones of reasons people hate it. I think my favourite is the borderline fraud. We always think Google is usually just online. Continuing with that, here are some of the reasons that you might hate it. You have no control, or a lot less control than your other campaign sites. Don't have as many insights. It spends on those cheap inventory that you probably don't want to be spending on. Rubbish products you need. You okay? And then the other one is stealing your conversions from your other campaign sites. These are, as Charley said, I am not going to pretend that I have every single answer up here now, or if I can go into it all in the space of half an hour. But these are the reasons that I will be trying to address. So on that note, why even bother with it? If your search campaigns are working, if your shopping campaigns, if you don't like it, why bother with it? Performance Max has some really unique features about it that you're not going to get from those standard other campaign types. The first being, you are going to find converters that you wouldn't find through your standard campaign types, through your normal shopping, and especially search for lead gen. You are going to learn more about who your customer actually is, because you're going to give it those audience signals, which I'm going to go into, but it's going to go out and find more. It's got that technology, it's got the algorithm, and it's getting better since it's launched every single day. And the last one is you can use those insights and take that into your other campaign types, but you can also take that into your whole wider marketing strategy. You can find those customers that you didn't know were your customers and find them in different places. This is just an example of some of the clients that we have made Performance Max work for. There is an array here of e-com and lead gen clients, which I think arguably is one that a lot of people don't think Performance Max is worth. So now I've got a lot about all the reasons that it's terrible and hopefully some of the reasons that it's actually good. What is Performance Max? It's a one-stop shop to buy across all of Google's inventory. So we have standard ones, so we have the shopping, search, video, display, but also these ones down here, which I think feel like it. much love, but you've got Discovery, Gmail, and Google Maps. And it uses indicative targeting from the audience signals that you give it and automates this strategy based on maximize conversions or maximize conversion value. So why is PMax a black box? I thought of this, it was very late at night and I thought it was really good and funny, but I think I was probably just like to eat the pie. But you give it the ingredients and it will make the pie. So that means you give it the assets, you give it your headlines and your copy, your product feed, your audience signals, and then it will go away and it will find those people for you. It will put that all together and find the right order to put those in and present in front of your customers. That can be quite a scary thing, because this means that there's no keywords, you don't have control at asset group level of your bid strategy. But as I said, it can have some really, really big upsides. So just a quick overview of how we recommend using it and when you should use it for e-com. The first is as your default campaign type. And by that, that's because it was initially made as a replacement or an upgrade from smart shopping. So that means it has much more advanced automation and a much more advanced algorithm than you're going to get from your standard shopping campaigns. The next one is your account has to have enough data. I will be going back to this quite a lot, hopefully hammering this home, you have to have enough data. Performance Mag it doesn't work in silos like some of the other campaign types do. It uses the data in your account to make it work as effectively as possible. So if you're not getting more than 30 conversions consistently throughout your account, it may still work, but it's not going to be as effective for you. And the other one is alongside a standard shopping campaign. So as I said here, it will use the other campaigns within your account to assist it. So having standard shopping alongside it is really useful for making it as effective as possible. When it comes to lead generation, these two are the same as the other ones, but this one I think is the main one to point out here. You want to max out your search first. So I'm definitely not going to stand up here and say that Performance Max is the best thing in the world and you should get rid of all your search campaigns and switch to Performance Max. You want to make sure that you are appearing for your high quality leads when they are searching for what you're doing. But there is a limit to search, and sometimes just increasing your budget isn't going to be the most efficient way to find your customers. And as I said, it's going to find people that you wouldn't necessarily find through search. And this is because PMax is designed to assist, not replace. So having said that, what are some times that you shouldn't be using PMax? The first and foremost is if you're limited by budget. As I said, it needs data. So if you're limited by budget, and that doesn't mean you have to have an endless amount of budget to make it work, but if you think of your cost per purchase or cost per lead being £50, and you want to put £30 behind it, it's going to be a waste of your money. Really, you need a minimum of one conversion coming in a day, or enough for one conversion coming in a day. I like to start the campaigns off of double your cost per action. So in that example of a £50 CPA, that will be starting at 100, and then once it's learned and taking some time, gradually increasing that. This goes hand in hand with that. And then the other one is if you have a non-conversion goal. Because PMax is designed to convert. So even though, and I feel like this can potentially be a misconception that we've definitely found with clients when trying to explain Performance Max, it does bid on those upper funnel channels, but it is designed to convert, and it's designed to follow that user to those channels to where they're most likely to convert. So it's not going to be a replacement if you are looking for awareness or impressions, and in your video, even in your search, it's not going to be a replacement for your brand, because you're probably going to want maximum impression share of that, or your traffic. You've got to make sure that your goal is conversions or conversion value. So what could this look like? Sorry, Kat, you see this example. So you've got me and Kat, we both searched type in Tesla deals. I'll be honest, she's definitely more likely to convert on that and actually follow through than I am, but for the purpose of this, let's just say that we're both interested in buying a Tesla. So Kat has a pretty simple customer journey here. She searches it, search campaign comes up, the ad comes through from your search campaign, she goes to the website, she becomes a lead, nice and easy. I, on the other hand, type this in, but I don't go to the website. Maybe I got distracted, maybe I just forgot, maybe I'm just browsing. And that's where the search is going to stop. But PMax will see my history of looking for Teslas and follow me to YouTube. And then from there, because I forgot, oh, hey, I typed that in a couple of weeks ago, I actually want to get back to that, I'll click through from YouTube and then I'll convert. Search isn't going to get that conversion, which is why it's important to get the cats and make sure you have mostly of her. But don't forget about those extra ones that you may not be finding. Audience signals. This is, especially for lead generation, one of your main signals. Main things that you give PMax to work with and find the right people. So what is an audience signal? It is a springboard for Performance Max, the algorithm, to find new converters. So really, Performance Max, as I've said, I'm going to hammer home, it's finding converters you wouldn't find through other campaign types. So you give it this audience signal here, it finds the converters in here, and what other demographics they may fit into, and then it will try and find new converters based on that. So what would this look like? Sorry, you guys are looking as well. This took me a long time to do, I've been told Anu that. Thank you. Yeah. Somebody's actually shooting this slide to show you how long it took me. Yeah. So the audience signal that I'm giving is in market for electric cars. Seems pretty on the nose if you're looking for a Tesla. The cat is in that audience, and she converts. Great. PMax will look at her and go, oh hey, she's actually fits into the category of being in the market for luxury cars. I don't really know what counts as a luxury car. It's a Porsche maybe. We've also searched Porsches. So it will start then targeting people also in the market for luxury cars. And if it finds that, well, basically most of the hot team here, also is going to convert, but actually everyone in this one stops converting, it's going to end up targeting these people, and it's going to leave your audience signal behind. But it's only going to do that if these people are more likely to convert. So this is an example of where actually you didn't know who your audience was. Now, this is one of the reasons that I love PMax, because this can be used for your paid, well, your digital marketing strategy overall. Let's say you're on advertising on Meta as well. Maybe you say, hey, these people are converting really well. Let's try reaching them on Meta. Let's try hitting this demographic. And lots more examples of that, and you can do that in your other video campaigns or your overlaying in your search campaigns, and just understand your audience better and your customer. When it comes to structuring your campaigns, main thing here is consolidate first and segment only with a reason. I absolutely love random structure. I like having a lot of control over things, but having run PMax for quite a while, it doesn't like that. PMax likes data. So you should consolidate as much as you can. You want to make sure that you've got that conversion data in there for it to be effective. And segment only if you have a reason. Now that reason could be you want to put more budget into one area than another. It could be asset relevancy. There are loads of reasons why you would segment. I'm not saying you shouldn't, but you just have to make sure that you have a reason. Other than you just want to have a bit more control. The other main thing is exclude brand. So this is one of the reasons people hate it. It steals conversions, getting those easy conversions from brand. Performance Max is designed to convert. It's going to recognise, if you don't exclude your brand, it's going to recognise that people searching for that are highly likely to convert. So of course it's going to bid on them. If you exclude brand, you're going to avoid them inflating your Performance Max performance and actually find you new converters. There's a couple ways you can do this. I like to do both just to make sure I'm covered. You can do this through when you set up a campaign doing brand exclusion, and you can also do it by either filling out a form or contacting Google Rep and getting a negative list applied to your PMax campaign. Google still won't let you do it yourself because they like to make it difficult, and then just excluding all your brand variations in there. But that can make a huge, huge difference. So I just put together just a brief overview of some tips for how you can structure your e-com, your PMax for e-com. The first one being segment by value. As I said, PMax is designed to convert. It's going to go more likely for the easy conversion to reach your target than the more difficult one. So this could be, it's going to get a lot of low value conversions than one or two high value. To have control over this and make sure that it's pushing in the right directions, segmented by value. This doesn't have to be by product price. This could be by product price. This could be your profit margin or your expected revenue. However you define high and low value, you want to be segmenting by that. The other one is split out new products. Because PMax likes data, it's going to stick with no's sometimes. So if you just lump your new product straight in, it's going to take a while for those new products to get impressions and start converting. So if you can, you've got the budget, you want to split those out into a separate campaign and then add them into your main ones once you've got the data behind it and your conversion data. And the last one is similar to what I said at the start about having a standard shopping campaign alongside. You want that catch-all brand shopping campaign on a low priority, so it's not taking any of the conversions that you should be seeing in PMax, but also that's where you're still going to be appearing on brand. This is a basic structure this could look like. So we've got our high value ones here with a low target ROAS because you know that they're more valuable to you, which typically means they're probably going to be more difficult to convert. And then your low value products with a much higher target ROAS, and then your new products as well. When it comes to lead generation, audience segmentation is queen. So another issue that a lot of people can have with Performance Max is the low quality of leads in lead generation. Your audience signals are your audience intent. That's how you're going to know what the quality is going to be of those leads that come through. So it's really important to consider your audience signals in the trusting marketing funnel that we want to use. So we've got the bottom of the funnel here. So this is your first party data. And also competitor side, which I feel like we really overlooked and not utilised as much as they should be. Competitor side is something you could target, say it's people who are on those sites or similar. You're literally telling Performance Max to go and target the people that you want to convert. It can also be super useful if you don't have a massive amount of first party data for it to go off. You then have your middle of the funnel. So this could be, for example, if I am looking for brake pad quotes. I'm in the market for a brake pad or a clutch repair. And then you're much wider in market. This could be, it depends what you consider a wider in market, but it could be just car repair in general, or if you consider that still kind of in the narrow in market, it could be just an affinity with cars. And really this can help guide you in terms of your expansion plan for Performance Max. So similar to, you kind of think of this, another circle here being your search. And then your next campaign type of Performance Max is going to be this one, and so on. The other thing that you want to make sure that you add and consider for your Performance Max for lead gen is to let your keywords guide you. Make use of search leads. So search leads, if you don't know what they are search categories that you can just give Performance Max with a little bit more direction. So it's not as specific as keywords, but it will be search categories. So if I'm searching for brake pad quotes is my search category or search theme, that includes search terms such as brake pad quotes, brake cost, how much brake pads, things like that. So you don't have to have an exhaustive list of your keywords as your search themes, but you want them to be narrow enough that they are specific to your audience signal that you're giving it. So again, this is a basic lead structure of how that could look. You've got your bottom of the funnel here that you're starting with, and then you're going up to this one here. Now this is an extra thing that I think can really help avoid clogging up your bottom funnel, your actual leads with poor quality leads. So if you have here your high value, that's going to be the lead that you want. That could also be an offline conversion, depending on the amount of data that you have. But this is going to be your leads, and you want that to be high quality, so you want that to be bottom funnel. You can then have these mid and low value conversions to avoid having these more upper funnel audiences that don't have the same intent as down here, clogging that up and giving Performance Max really long signals, because it's going to go after more of those people. So what you can use here, it could be a brochure request, it could be, this one could even be just some time on site, browsing at least 3 pages, something like that, that will help you nurture this top of funnel all the way down to there and ultimately to convert. So once you get your campaign set up, the main thing to remember is don't set and forget. Performance Max the way that it's set up, the way that you set it up, and Google can really push you to be like, this is the best thing, we'll just do it all for you. But that's not the case. It may seem, and it is, obviously we know, it is a bit of a black box, but you're getting more and more insights all the time, and you do have levers that you can pull. So make sure not just to leave it and let it run. In terms of some rules that we have for optimizing, so don't touch that. I know it's quite counterintuitive to what I just said, but what I mean by this is for those first 2 to 4 weeks once you've launched it, depending on the amount of data, you want to leave it alone because it's working across 5 different channels. It's optimizing from the audience signals you give it, which potentially could be rubbish, and finding new ones. If it doesn't work in the first week, don't turn it off. That doesn't mean it's not going to work for you. It needs to learn. It needs to find where your converters are and who your converters are. Within that as well, don't fiddle with it too much. If you're going to change your budget or your bid strategy, try and do that once a week. If you're going to add in some new creatives or add in a different audience signal or alter out one of your asset groups, do that and leave it. It needs that time to learn and find how that's going to be useful for finding your new converters. The next one is getting scripts. I absolutely love scripts. Not just Performance Max, just in general, I'm a bit obsessed with them. But scripts can give you that extra insight that you're potentially missing from just inside the platform. I think one of the best ones and the most well-known ones is Mike Rhodes' script. With that one, you can see where your conversions are coming from, where you're spending kind of by channel, from campaign to asset group to product, the whole way down. So that can give you really, really useful insights. That script is also great for lead generation. Campaigns, you can't see further than campaign level. You can only see where you're spending, where your conversions are coming from, and your conversion value is coming from at campaign level. But it's still great to know that where your money is going is where your conversions are coming from. Use the insights in there. Yes, you don't have as many as you do in your other campaign types, but you can see what search themes are bringing through, which ones have the most volume, where your conversions are coming from in those search themes. You can see which assets are doing well compared to which headlines are doing better, which image is doing better than the other image. You can use these to do your tests. Don't forget to test. This is really, I think, a really important thing across all digital marketing, but especially Performance Max, as I said, because it can seem like you don't have these insights, it can be easy not to test. But there's so much you can test. You can test how you've grouped your products, which audiences you're targeting. You can test which creative is going to work well for one audience, if that's going to work well for another audience. Always be learning. We're still learning every day. The last one is a bit cringy as I say it, but don't give up. It can be very easy, especially if you don't understand Performance Max and how it's going to work for you, to just pause it. But that's going to end up being a waste of your money. You're using Performance Max for a reason, because you've maxed out search, or it's going to get you more over standard shopping. Don't just turn it off. I want to finish off with a final few tips and tricks, which are examples of ways that you can actually use the insights that you do have to optimize those campaigns. So this is an example of a lead generation client. And these are 2 asset groups here. So we can't see at asset group level, as I said in the micro script, we can't see that for lead generation, where our money and our conversions are coming from. What we can see here is these 2 different asset groups have a pretty similar conversion rate, but the CPA is quite different. So this tells me that this one is spending a lot more on those expensive ones, search, and this one is going to be spending on the cheaper ones. So what can you take from this? You could say, all right, I'm going to turn this off. You could say, okay, maybe I should try some different creatives for these ones. Maybe I should try a different audience for this one. Enhance it a little bit, split out more, see where those are going. And another one, and this is something I found super exciting when I found it out. The rest of the team wasn't as excited because it was like the end of Friday. But I adjusted the micro strips slightly on the template, which if you were looking at me on LinkedIn, I will send it to you. I'm on a coder, it's not that pretty, but it does work. But this just looks at how the cost distribution has changed over time. Now, with this client, we launched Performance Max, their lead generation. We launched Performance Max, and we found that it was working really well on some terms that for our versus our exact campaign and our phrase match. So we decided to turn the phrase match campaign off that we were hitting through Performance Max. That's when we did that. So I think what this tells me, first of all, is that Performance Max was not stealing conversions. It was not going after those terms before we turned off that phrase match campaign because we were already bidding on them within those search campaigns. The other thing is that when this happened, performance went down on PMax because it's got all of this new data and all of this new way of testing how the audience signals you're going to give it, you've given it, how that's going to work, how they're going to work in performance search, and video dropped right off. Performance went down and we didn't touch it. We didn't relaunch phrase match, we didn't turn up Performance Max. What we did is we let it for a couple of weeks, monitored this, and we've seen since then, performance has gone back up. And it is actually pretty much just spending on, well, I mean, it's stayed pretty similar to what this looks like here. And Performance Max is now performing way better than that phrase match campaign initially did. So you can use these insights, and as I said, I will send you it if you want to find out how the algorithm works really. We actually have recently for the time launched a new search campaign that covers some of the searches that are coming up in this. So I'm interested to see how this changed and where the algorithm updates are on it. So I want to finish off with some better reviews when I went down my Reddit rabbit hole. And I think these really sum it up. It is getting better every day. It is complicated and it does take time to get it right, which is why you can't just give up on your first hurdle after your first week. And as I showed you at the beginning of the clients that we're using it on, it does work for more accounts than it doesn't work for. And it can be annoying, but the upside is big. You can learn more about your converters and your customers. You can use that for your wider strategy, overlay on your search campaigns, and you're going to find people that you wouldn't have found another way from just increasing your budget. Does anyone have any questions?
Thank you so much, Hollie, for sharing those insights about Performance Max for both e-com and lead gen clients. Our final speaker today is Alex Palgrave Davies. Alex is the head of paid search at Cathay & Co., and he has more than a decade of experience leading PPC campaigns. Today, he's going to answer a few questions for us. When should you make data-led decisions? And when is intuition actually a better option? Striking the balance in performance marketing is key to managing risk and growth. He's here to share some stories of where he's found success. Let's give it up for Alex.
Just wanted to say those two talks were absolutely brilliant. Yeah. So thank you very much, guys. I really enjoyed both of them. Also wanted to say thank you to Anu for putting this on. As somebody who helps out with event planning at Cathay & Co., I know that for every one thing you see in this room, there's 10 other things she's had to do behind the scenes to make it work. So thank you very much for giving me the opportunity to speak. Just to introduce myself, I'm head of paid search at Cathay & Co., lead a team of around 15 people working across around about 25 accounts. And then we talked about data versus intuition today. First, I want to start with a love story. It's a love story that I'm involved with. So this happened 20 years ago. A couple of the Cathay & Co team were still learning to walk, but I was fresh out of uni, looking for a job. I'd done an English degree, and I didn't want to be a teacher, So there was nothing out there for me. So I took a job at a call centre in Warrington in the north of England. It's one of the biggest call centres in Europe. It's a Vodafone call centre. And it applied to none of my skill set at all. I was no good at talking to people. I was really averse to confrontation, and I didn't know what customer service meant at all. And I remember on the first day walking in, and they had a notice board at the front door showing the top 100 call centre advisors in Europe. And there was a guy at the top called Steve, and I thought, I'm never going to be Steve. This is just not for me. The first 3 months were terrifying. My manager was a really lovely person, but she had little to no interest in my development. And then I realised that I could actually request surveys that had been done for the customers that I'd spoken to. So I started to request these surveys on a monthly basis, and I would start making tables of the areas where customers thought I was doing well, and the areas where they thought that I could improve. And over the next couple of years, I worked really, really hard going through like one item by one item, trying to get better and better. It never became a natural thing for me. It was always a big effort. I kept seeing Steve at the top of this leaderboard, and I thought, I'm going to get Steve. And I remember I got into the top 100, and then I got into the top 50, and I got into the top 20. And then one day, it happened. I came third. I never quite beat Steve. He was a total maverick. Still one of my heroes. But yeah, it shows you just how much power there is in data, just for driving insights, for understanding where the next opportunity lies. And I know that pretty much everyone in this room is a big fan of data. I'm not sure if Hollie's dad is, but maybe not. So I'm just going to take you through a few examples of how we use data at Cate. So this is analysis that we've done of responsive search ads. I'm going to assume everyone in this room knows PPC terminology. We're very happy to explain to anyone afterwards if they'd like me to take them through the tests. So we ran some ads unpinned and some ads pinned across several accounts. We found that click-through rate was actually better with pinned ads, and ROAS was actually stronger with pinned ads, despite Google's ad strength being actually worse for the ads where we pinned the headlines. So that was a very interesting insight. The second one was testing keyword match types. So we tested this across a lot of our e-commerce clients in August, September of last year in the run-up to peak. And we saw that conversion rate on phrase was actually quite markedly lower than broad and exact. So we now run most of our accounts with only broad and phrase keyword match types. And then the third one, which I hope a lot of you in this room will be happy about, we had a look at auto-applied recommendations, and I can confirm they do suck. Across 9 Cate & Co clients in Q4 2023, some brave clients allowed us to opt them into half a dozen auto-applied recommendations. We had the team go into every account on a daily basis and categorize all of the recommendations that had been made. As you can see, huge 2.9% of them were useful. Some of them did nothing at all, and a lot of them were actually actively harming campaigns. And we actually shared this with our Google rep as an explanation for why we weren't going to continue with auto-applied recommendations. So very proud of this one. This is not a Cate test. We don't deal with World War II fighter jets. Has anyone ever seen this before? Cool. That's about the same amount of people in the office. So this is a very simple diagram of a plane, and every red dot represents a bullet hole. And this was analysis that World War II engineers would do when planes returned from the battlefield. And they would look at the bullet holes and think, wow, that's where the plane's weakest. So we're going to patch that up, make those areas of the plane's wings stronger, send it back out to fight again. A very clever man called Abraham Wald came along, and he pointed out, actually, the planes you should be worried about are the ones that don't come back. So you're actually looking at the completely wrong areas of the plane that you need to look after, because it's the ones that didn't even make it back that are actually the most in trouble. And this is one of the ways that data can be really misleading. When data is interpreted correctly and your testing is robust, it can give you clarity, it can give you confidence. Those tables that I showed you, that pie chart that I showed you, very conclusive, we knew exactly what to do off the back of that. But sometimes data takes you down the wrong path, or it can actually halt your progress altogether. Don't know if any of you recognise this guy. This is Odysseus, and these are the sirens, and they're calling to him, they're singing to him, and they're tempting him, but they're bad sirens, and they deal with bad data. So this siren, she deals with not enough data. The middle siren's the worst of the sirens because she deals with poor quality data. And the third siren deals with noisy data. And all of these sirens are calling out to you constantly. Make conclusions based on not enough data, make recommendations based on poor quality data, tell your client what to do next based on noisy data. And it's a really, really slippery slope, to the extent that our industry has actually given it a name now to try and cover it up. And we call it green shoots. I don't know, has anyone heard this term before? It's basically a term that people in the industry have started using to make conclusions based on not enough data. The campaign's generated 2 conversions. There's some green shoots of success there. What green shoots actually means is maybe it's going to work. But more and more of the time, we're seeing that with the increasing complexity of measurement and the increasing fragmentation of platform data, bad decisions are being made based on not enough data, poor quality data, and noisy data. This man, Tony Fidel, for those of you who don't know, he was co-creator of the iPod, and then he founded a company called Nest, which went on to redesign home thermostats. Very successful businessman. And he talks a lot about the difference between data versus opinion-based decisions. And he talks a lot about something called analysis paralysis, which is where companies, clients, agencies get locked in feedback loops of data-driven decisions that are based on poor quality, not enough data, noisy data. And he says if you look at most companies that are paralyzed, it's because they're trying to turn opinion-based decisions into data-driven decisions. And we see this a lot. We see a lot of our clients get locked in a cycle of indecision because they are trying to make decisions based on data that is not actually there. And we see it as our role to understand when we actually need to say, let's move away from data and move towards intuition as the fastest way to get us back to a data-driven approach. So I want to be clear, at no point in this presentation am I suggesting you should rely on intuition to drive results. Intuition is a method for getting back to data-driven decisions. Just want to talk a bit about what intuition is not. So intuition is not instinct. So this is a man running away from a lion. He has not used his intuition to decide to run away from the lion. He has instinctively run away from the lion. Instinct is a reflex action based on external stimuli. There is no thought in instinct. Intuition is very different. This is Pharrell. For those of you who don't know Pharrell, I urge you to seek out his music. Pharrell is an accomplished musician, fashion superstar, and brand ambassador for Louis Vuitton. And Pharrell is the latest in a long line of people who've been chosen by Bernard Arnault, the CEO of Louis Vuitton, based on his intuition for what the market is doing and how Louis Vuitton can continue to set trends and remain at the forefront of fashion and not fall behind the times. He's very, very good at this. Pharrell's campaign has been hugely successful, but it was not a data-driven decision. It was based on his intuition. This man, Bruce Henderson, unfortunately doesn't seem to have a picture on the internet. I found Tony and I found Pharrell, but Bruce was hiding from me. But he was the founder of the Boston Consulting Group back in the 1970s. And he described intuition as effectively the subconscious integration of everything that you've done in your life. And that includes the cultural and emotional biases of that lifetime. That's why intuition is not the method for success, it is just a tool. If you rely on intuition, you're going to introduce all of the biases and all of the cultural influences that you've accumulated in your lifetime into decision-making around performance, and it's not going to end prettily. So again, we're looking to get back to data as quickly as possible. Here are 3 instances where you shouldn't use intuition. I am hugely guilty of the first one. It's being the magician in the room. So you're in the room with a client, the data isn't there, they're looking for answers, and you decide on the spur of the moment, I'm going to come up with an idea. I've seen this before, I've seen this in accounts before, this is what we need to do next, this is definitely going to work. If they call you out on it, it's incredibly embarrassing. I definitely recommend nobody does this. The second thing is even worse, and I can proudly say that we never do this at Cat A, but I have seen it done in the past, which is distracting people from poor performance by using ideas and reasons outside of the data to justify what you're seeing. Oh, the market is poor. Oh, it rained on the weekend. Fine, but that is an intuition-based judgment. It is not a data-based judgment. The third thing, and this is the most damaging because it's the one that most often gets signed off by the client, is taking the poor quality data that you have, using your intuition to extrapolate what you think is a data-driven result from it, and taking action based on that. But actually that data just belongs in the bin. You shouldn't be basing any of your judgment on it at all. And using your intuition to try and kind of supercharge that data is just going to lead to failure. The way that you need to use intuition is you need to set yourself up to use it to get back to the data. And you do that using 3 very careful, planned steps. So the first thing to do is, if you're making decisions based on intuition, be honest with each other, be honest with the client. We don't have the data to make this decision, but based on our experience and based on the ideas that we've seen in other accounts, in market research, we can intuitively say that this step is probably the one that's going to get us back to high quality data, back to good decision making. Make sure everyone's aware of what you're doing. Don't try and hide it, just explain, we need to find our way back to the numbers and this is how we did it. The second step is that by doing that you are advocating for a different approach. So you're saying, we're going to do something different from the way we've been working before. That can be scary for clients, and it's important that you take them along for the ride. So just explain why you're doing it, and explain you're trying to get back to the numbers. And the final thing as well is not losing sight of the goal. One of the biggest things that I learned when I was kind of going through kind of junior analyst level is that the absolute best PPC practitioners share the same goals as the business that they are working for. An excellent PPC practitioner will be in their accounts every day, optimizing them and doing the best PPC work possible. A truly exceptional PPC practitioner will be thinking, is this work that I'm actually doing contributing to my client's end goal? Am I going beyond doing good PPC work? Am I driving good, meaningful, positive business outcomes for my client as well? And intuition can be a really powerful tool for helping you connect your practice to your client's goals. The good news is, you guys are actually really good at this. You're really, really good at using intuition to get back to data-driven outcomes. And we know this because we have data to prove it. This is a quote from Michael Pratt. So he is a professor of marketing. And he says that if you're working in an industry where you've risen through the ranks, your domain expertise will likely better serve an intuitive approach. And all he means in that is the longer you've been doing PPC, the better you will be at using intuition to get back to a data-driven approach. It's all common sense, but it's backed by data, it's backed by scientific studies. 2 studies were done in 2012 by a man called Eric Dane. Again, these will be very common sense, I'm not saying anything surprising or weird here. It turns out that people who play basketball are much better at figuring out how difficult a shot is based on only 2 to 3 seconds of basketball footage. So they showed some basketball players mid-shot to some people who play basketball and to some people who didn't. And the people who play basketball are, surprise, surprise, much better at knowing how difficult the shot is. Also, turns out people who buy lots of handbags are really good at knowing if a handbag is fake or not. This is one that happened to us. This is where we got into analysis paralysis with a client. So this client is called Swift. Swift are a premium sofa business in the UK, and their USP when they launched, we took them from launch, is that your sofa arrives in a box. So it's simple, quick delivery, easy to move the box around and to assemble the furniture really quickly once you've unpacked it all. So we thought, great, like the creative work is half done for us here. This USP is really, really strong. And we started to put together lots and lots of different iterations of this creative based on this same USP. And the data didn't improve over time. It was roughly the same. It didn't matter what kind of messaging we were putting alongside this sofa in a box idea. People just weren't responding to it any differently, no matter what the approach was. We got stuck in this loop for weeks and weeks. We talked to the client loads with multiple calls. We had kind of heads of department coming in, trying to figure out what was going on with it. Just wasn't working out, and we got stuck in analysis paralysis. And then one day we just decided, let's take an intuitive approach. Let's think about those three things. Let's sit down together, agree we're going to base our next step on what we think and not on data. Let's think about a different approach to the messaging. And let's think about our client's actual goal, as opposed to just doing good PPC. Their goal was to sell more sofas, not to tell people that their sofa came in a box. And it turns out, people don't really care that their sofa comes in a box. What they care about is when they get drunk, if they spill wine on it, they'll be able to wipe it up and it will be completely stain resistant. When we launched this creative, pretty much overnight our click-through rate went up by 30%, and our CPA went down by 40% at the same order volume. We were able to scale them rapidly from there. But we had to take that intuitive step to get there. Importantly, when we did that, we did it with the understanding that we were coming back to a data-driven approach. We had these numbers, we were able to start iterating again on the creative and understanding where the gains came from. And the more messaging testing we did with this kind of theme, we did start to see CPAs drop even more or stay the same at a higher order volume. So just to summarize, intuition is a tool, it's not an approach, and you need to use intuition to find your way back to data. When the data is available, go with the data. I love data, it's my favourite. Gives you clarity, gives you certainty, gives you confidence. If the data isn't there, don't allow yourself to get stuck and don't fall into the trap of extrapolating from bad, poor quality data. And if you have the expertise, and this is really important, your clients can't do this. You can do it for them. You're the experts, you have the domain expertise, you've risen through the ranks to understand how these things work. If you have the expertise, then use intuition to find your way back to data. Make sure everyone's bought into doing this. And if you don't have the expertise, then I highly recommend that you find a really good agency to help you out with it. And it's the number one way that we found, particularly in difficult market conditions, for clients to continue finding gains when data's not telling you where to go next. So that was everything from me. Thank you very much.
Woo, wonderful. Well, thank you so much to Charley, to Hollie, and to Alex for sharing their insights and expertise with us. And thank you for you all for tuning in. Now, I have a few special guests I would like to bring on screen with me now. It looks like one is just getting set up, so I will bring on the other. Welcome, Sarah Steeman, to our PPC Live today.
Hello. I hope it's not too dark. I'm sorry about that.
No, we can see you. It's great. Wonderful. And then we have one more guest coming on. If she's ready, I can just see her backstage now. Can you nod for me if you're ready, our next guest? 1 minute. Okay, she needs a moment, so we'll give her a moment. But really excited to be here speaking with you all today about imposter syndrome, about performance max, and about data and intuition. Okay, our other guest is Anu, back on the stage. Welcome. You're on mute, Anu. Just come off mute for us so we can tease you and hear you all at the same
There
time.
we are. Hello,
There
can
we
you hear me? Sorry, yeah, I wanted to get my lights on, and yeah, I know you even gave me a 2-minute warning, but you know when your brain just goes, sorry guys.
Well,
It's
evening for you. It's still afternoon work time for Sarah and I. But wanted to come chat here with those who are joining us live today. So if you are watching this right now live on YouTube or live on LinkedIn, you can feel free to drop a comment, ask a question. We'll be happy to answer that for you. While folks are thinking about that, I wanted to go back to what Charley spoke about during her talk at the beginning of the live stream, which is imposter syndrome. And she shared this stat that 75% of people have experienced imposter syndrome in the workplace. And I know that's something we can all relate to as well. And the more we talk about things like this, the less stigma there is associated with it, which is one of the things I loved about what Charley had to say today. So Sarah and Anu, do either of you have something to share about a time when you experienced imposter syndrome and how you dealt with it? Okay, I'll go first, and then I would love to hear your story as well.
I just have a lot to say. It's not that I don't have
Yeah, same.
a lot to say, but go start, Jyll.
All right, I'll start us off, and then I'm going to go to Sarah next. So I think the time in my life when I experienced the most imposter syndrome was when I went to Harvard Business School, because it just didn't like click for me that like I actually go here. Like what? I felt like an Elwoods. I just, yeah. And I was the youngest person in my class. And so it was the first time in my life when I just shut up. Like so much of my high school experience, my university experience, I was like, I'm so smart. I'm going to say what I want to say. And everyone listened to me. And it actually was so good for me to feel that feeling of like, wow, there are 89 other people in this room and they all are smarter than me and know more than me and have more interesting things to say to me. So I'm just going to shut up and listen. And I did, and I learned a ton. So it turned out to be a really humbling thing for me. You know, 20-something Jyll needed some humbling, but it was also immensely intimidating. So that was my kind of biggest brush with imposter syndrome. What about you, Sarah?
Well, I have like a couple incidences. So I'd say, you know, one of the things, you know, I used to get yelled at and told, you're really good at paid search, but we got to get you out of the platform. Meaning, you know, I'm confident in the platform, just navigating around because I've sort of made it my mission to always find something in there to talk about. But there's a lot that goes in around just, how do I put it? Like putting an ad copy doc together absolutely perfectly, having an entire ad copy doc with like 16 campaigns and every single typo needs to be taken care of. And I don't talk about it a lot, but I'm a little bit dyslexic. I also now know the term from having kids. I don't have the best, what's called executive functioning skills. So, you know, I always am like, am I doing like everything that I should? So I worry about that. When I first started my own business, I was like, great, I'm going to have a typo on my website and nobody will hire me. But guess what? I got to the point where I don't care. I can have a typo. You know what? If they don't hire me because of a typo, then they're not the client for me.
Yeah, they're not.
And so I feel like, it's all the stuff around my job that I used to worry about so much. And now it's what makes me me.
Absolutely. What about you, Anu? How much time do you have?
How much time do you guys have? And sorry, Jyll, just so make sure I don't ramble and tangent up. What's the question?
Your specific question is, can you tell us about a time when you experienced imposter syndrome and how you handled it?
Oh yeah, like 1 week ago. Randomly on July 25th. Do we know what happened on July 25th? Oh yeah, our PPC live event. Yeah, the latest one. Every time the event comes around, I do this picture, this like story. It's like my IG story of going, there's only 2 people here. It's 5 minutes before the event is about to start. No one is going to show up. It's just going to be a waste of time. I put all of this together for nothing. Finally, people have realized that I've been wasting my time, that I don't know what I'm doing. people have just been humoring me by, coming to the previous events, And then I always do a 10 minutes later when the room is full. And I'm like, oh yeah, they came. There was no point. There was no point in that panicking. That's just always in my head. A dangerous thing to admit. We've had 12 events. I've thought of quitting.
Oh yeah.
Like at least 10 times. I
think that's normal.
You thought I was going to cry about this because I'm ridiculously passionate about this, and it's almost like it very much is. I'm not doing this to get paid. I'm just doing this. But the imposter syndrome is my worst enemy. It's the who the hell do you think you are? Like, why you? I have not gone to Harvard. I mean, I'm so like, Jyll, you're so amazing to me, right? I didn't go to Harvard. I went to a really good university. Yeah, God bless my dad. He did all his best to send his kids to the best universities in the world. We don't have a single pound of student loan debt to pay back. He made sure we had the best footing in life, but I was not really a studious person, is the honest truth. So I left uni thinking I'm probably not that smart. I'm probably not, oh God, all the and well, Harvard is a US thing. In the UK, we have the likes of Cambridge and Oxford and Eton and those high-flying universities. I went to a very fantastic university called Queen Mary. But yeah, I just about passed. I just about graduated. And yeah, so for a long of time, I've not had a lot of faith in myself. Not. And that has been my biggest work. And yeah, the imposter syndrome doesn't want you to do that. Imposter syndrome wants you to believe that you're lazy, you're not smart enough, you can't do it. What you've got is not good enough, but who has ever achieved without thinking that? I think that 75% number that Charley posed is probably lower. I probably actually think it's higher. And something I said at the event was the fact that, it was a comedian that said this, and I loved it. And he's like, people who have imposter syndrome, they're actually the ones doing their jobs well. They're actually the ones striving. They are self-reviewing every day, going, okay, I could have done that bit better. And then they try. They go, okay, I'm going to focus on being better at this area that I'm not sure I'm good at. So they work hard on improving. And yeah, and I knew I was going to do this. I've tangented off totally from actually what the question was. But yeah, I suffer from imposter syndrome, regularly. And it's, yeah, I just try. I just power through it. I just power through it because I'm like, thankfully, and I'm the last one in my family. Even imposter syndrome hits me just as being the youngest in my family because I'm probably not. But actually, that one, I feel like I've been able to turn that around, and I've bought a house. I've got to work in this. I've been successful in this business. So I'm doing something right. Like the evidence is I'm doing something right. Like you look at the factual evidence, I'm doing something right. I have meetings with my managers at work and they're happy with my work, even though every meeting, whenever they say that, I'm surprised. And I'm like, I don't know why I'm surprised. I'm surprised. I'm like, really? I'm like, yes. So, that has worked. It's all about looking at the factual evidence. As Charley said, the brilliant list. It happens, but go back to the brilliant list. There's facts and evidence that says you're brilliant. Look at that regularly. And on that note, I'll shut up.
No, and I will say as well, the next time for the, 13th PPC Live event, just remind yourself in that window where only 2 people shown up so far, that right now we've had more than 100 people tune into the live online version of PPC Live. So just keep those numbers in your head as well next time.
Amazing.
All right, I'm going to switch gears a little bit and talk about Performance Max. Who doesn't love talking about Performance Max, right? So when Hollie was introducing this topic in her talk, she asked the audience pretty much like who's used Performance Max and who hates Performance Max, and let's get out of the way with things we hate, and then talk about all the ways we can potentially use it in ways that are going to work for our business. And so would love to pose the, again, kind of more open-ended question to both of you. Like, how are you feeling about Performance Max these days? It's been around for 2.5 years. How do you feel about it? Anu, how are you feeling about Performance Max these days?
Yeah, the honest truth is that I'm one of those people that should not be speaking necessarily about PMax. I cannot advise anybody about PMax because I got out of account management before it became popular to start using PMax. But from like a news,
you write about it for work a lot, right? Like you're up to that. Yeah.
I was about to go into that. Like, yeah, from like a news editor point of view, they're working on it. They're always working on it. The new things to test. It is not, and from Hollie's talk, it's not a total dumpster fire. And we've got to realize that with all the tools that will come to with Google, there are going to be parameters for it to work and for it not to work. There's some people that should hate it and be like, oh, it's not working for me, I hate it, stay away from it, because you've tested it, not just because you've read somebody else's point of view. Like, test it, know that it doesn't work for you, and then walk away from it. There are some people it will work for. And I'm sure both of you have experienced this before. Like, what we shouldn't get into the danger of is going, PMax is, that absolute PMax is shit. Like, ignore those people. PMax is shit because if they just do that line, PMax is shit because if they give the context, and you might not fit that context at all. And so PMax might be good for you. But yeah, if you fit that context, okay, listen to that person. PMax is shit because both of you have run the same kind of accounts, have the same kind of customers, run in the same industry, I've been running for the same period of time, have that mature of an account, plus 10 other different caveats. Yeah, maybe it does. Maybe you shouldn't work, but no two brands are the same. Even if you work in the same industry, no two brands are the same. So PMax is worth testing if you never have done it before, is my opinion.
PMax is worth testing. What about you, Sarah? I know you manage Google Ads. You also train a lot of agencies. So I'm curious how you're feeling about Performance Max these days.
Yeah, so heavy Performance Max, hopefully not like goals, right, to move out of account management. So I do feel like the bar sometimes is explaining to clients what they've sort of the word on the street and hearing the negativity. It's sometimes the battle. Like it is matched on 2 clients, like huge spending clients now, one-to-one directly with their analytics. So the one client, a heavy ecom client that I worked with, the Performance Max revenue that everybody screams is over attributing matched their Adobe. Adobe is not Google. It matched. Now, it did strip off the CIDs, and so we had to go dig and find them. So there is that. But then the other client, and it's a weird one. So it's an e-commerce, but it's not actually selling a product. Regardless, it has HubSpot integration. Same thing, strips off those extra parameters. And they're like, where'd all this extra revenue come from? And it matches exactly. Now, could you make arguments that it's retargeting some of the Facebook? I mean, there's always a discussion, but more and more, I think we have to get comfortable with the murky attribution. In fact, we had to get comfy with the murky attribution in 2007 when I started having these discussions. And so now in 2024, when I'm still having these discussions, my standard answer is, if you don't like it, then let's try turning it off for a little while. And let's see what happens with your business. And then let's try turning it back on and look at your business. And then that usually gets a whoa, whoa, whoa. I was just asking. So, but I do think that whole incremental testing strategy is something. It used to be what we would do with the brand non-brand conversation. Just test it. Turn it off for a couple months, see what happens.
I see something similar. I mean, we all know that Google Ads and all paid ads platforms are becoming
Yes.
more and more automated, attribution's deteriorating, third-party cookies may be here to stay in Chrome, but they ain't working today the way they worked a couple years ago. So like, that's the future we want to work towards. And that's how I talk to my clients about it. A lot of my coaching clients are not ready to use performance maps because they don't have an optimized feed, or they don't have full funnel conversion tracking, or they have no creative assets, right? But the goal is to get there, even if it means right now we're still running search with some exact match keywords, or we're maybe testing demand gen for the first time and not ready to go all the way to PMax. But I think for all of us, we can see a future that is a not so distant future where Google Ads is performance max and not much else. Yeah. Well, thank you so much to Anu and Sarah for coming on to answer questions today. Thank you to all of you for tuning in live or watching this replay later. And finally, another thank you to Anu for creating PPC Live, for letting us broadcast this online for the whole world to enjoy and learn. We are so grateful for you, Anu. Thank you so much. And I hope everyone will join us again next time.
Thank you.